Hey everybody, Miguel Garcia from Metayantra here, and I'm going to be showing you how I test for good shungite. There's a lot of I don't know ever since I started discovering it, reading all of the medical publications about it and what it does and energetically how it charges. It's just weird, it's mysterious stuff, right? So I've been doing a lot of testing, a lot of researching on it, and it's just absolutely fascinating. So I bought a lot of the stuff, some from online vendors, some from the actual mine in Karolia, Russia, and learned how to test it for accuracy. For validity, to separate the fake stuff from the good stuff, because it's out there. So I'm going to show you how I use a multimeter to test the resistance going through this shungite sample to see if it's the real deal, high quality stuff or not. This is a digital multimeter, and what it does is, you can turn it to look at different things like voltage or resistance, and today what we're going to do is we're going to look at resistance. Now these different clicks are different squelch levels, which means that it's kind of a filter. I've got it set at 200 times ohms. Ohms is resistance, and so what I'm going to be doing with checking the resistance, the ohmmeter, is I'm going to see how much of the current can run through an item. The electrons can flow through freely, so right now means total resistance and 0 means zero resistance, which means that the electrons can flow freely through. So if I were to touch these two guys together, watch what happens. It'll go to 0, because what happens is that I've completed the circuit. It goes all the way down to 0 because the electrons are flowing completely through from the black to the red. When I take it off, it goes to 1, which means it's completely locked or 100% blocked. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and grab a coin here. Coin is a very good conductor of metal, and I'm just going to touch the two sides to it, and you'll see what happens is that it goes quickly to 0, which means that a coin is a very, very good conductor of electricity. Electrons can flow right through it. My finger is not. But the end of this whatever USB thing here should be very good because it is made to let a signal go through. So I'll just go ahead and touch both sides, and you see it goes all the way down to 0. Okay, so these are very, very good conductors. Now what's interesting about carbon is not a good conductor unless it's in the shape of shungite. Shungite, which is carbon, but they're clumped together in balls of 60 molecules, like soccer balls. Carbon is a hexagon, and it makes for a very perfect molecule for energy transfer or information transfer for living items, which is our living beings, which is why organic chemistry centers around carbon. Carbon is the perfect molecule to do metabolic processes, or DNA inscription, transfer of genetic information, things like that. So this is carbon. This is actually polished shungite, which is not 98% pure like a leach shungite. Crazy thing is, I was in a tub and in kind of a certain space, and this thing floated and sat right on top. Haven't figured that out, but that's my fascination with shungite. So carbon, and if I put the positive and negative and run the current through the rock, watch what happens. Goes all the way down to 0. Now how can a chunk of coal go all the way down to 0? The reason is because the valence electrons, the outer electrons of this spinning soccer ball, all like polarized and are able to line up to allow the current to go from one side to the other without any blockage, which is pretty dang cool. Nothing like it, so you get this really weird looking rock, looks like a chunk of beautiful coal or polished coal. This comes from Karolia in Russia and only exists pretty much in the one place where you can find it. And it has really crazy properties, antibacterial, antiseptic, but also it has been used in AIDS research. It actually can break apart the capsule that holds the transcript of RNA inside the AIDS virus and expose that and neutralize it. So there's been a lot of research on that, and you can see it. This is what they call noble shungite, and this is the expensive stuff. Okay, but there's a lot of fake stuff here. So this is a good one, and I test all the ones that I get to make sure that they're good. And how do I test them? By seeing how they work as conductors. This one right here, 000, no resistance whatsoever. at this squelch level and the current flows directly through. Now let me show you a piece of sketchy shungite. I've got this one here. Now watch what happens when I go to this one. Now this one is in the same batch. Okay, so, or you can go to a jewelry store. You want to just make sure that you get the real stuff. So I'll just go ahead and put my current through it. And you'll see right here that it never gets to zero. In fact, all the electrons are trying to push their way through, and you see how the number is constantly changing. You won't see that in anything else. It almost never stabilizes. It's like there's a lot of confusion, and I'm not touching anything. I just hold it here and you'll see that the resistance changes, but it never goes to zero. Now this is a low quality noble shungite stone because of something in it that's wrong. Now I'll show you the same principle but with a flashlight. Now this flashlight here, I've got to back off. What you're seeing is the negative pole, and the body itself will then connect to the positive pole. So basically this is like this right here. My hand is a circuit. When you open the circuit, the electrons can't flow through, right? So right now, because there's no lid screw on the back, it's an open circuit. I want to bridge it with something in here, which would then be this shungite stone. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll touch the back pole of where the battery would go, and then touch it to the body, and then you'll see that it's a very, very weak signal. Well, okay, that means that something in this bridge is not conducting the electrons through. Now let's take a good piece of shungite, the one that I tested that had zero resistance on my multimeter. I'll put this one on the back pole and look at that baby light up. Okay, so it's the same thing here. You can see. You can't test how pure it is, but you can kind of visually see. So all of these guys here in this little pile, kind of same thing. If I touch it there and go here, extremely bright, but if I take my iffy one, this one right here, and I just go ahead and touch it there and there, you'll see that it is weaker. Okay, oh, and by the way, as you can see, and it did it on the multimeter, that the current would just go on and off even though you hold it. And you can't really see it, but the intensity of the light changes, or it goes off and on. It's because what's happening inside this guy is all of the valence electrons, the outer electrons. The C60 spheres are trying to resonate and let everything go through it, but something about it is blocking. So let's take a piece of absolute fake shungite. There's a lot of counterfeit out there, and they might charge $35 for this thing, but it's completely useless. Now I'm not going to diss anybody who buys this and goes, oh my god, I just completely feel how this is reversing the spin of those, whatever the antigens or the toxins or whatever that are coming into the biological system. That's a whole another video on how this stuff works, but, so you can do the placebo effect and think, yeah, wow, I feel such a great difference. But this is fake, 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 fake. I'm just going ahead and put this here and there, and you'll see that there's no current going through it whatsoever. So just to review, this is kind of the sketchy one. And you look on the back, never gets to zero, never gets to a clean signal, all the way across. This is a good piece. I'm just going to put it here and you'll see that it goes to zero. And last but not least, I'm going to show you a loonie. And interesting enough, the loonie is a Canadian quarter. Bang, goes straight to zero, which means everything goes across it. You get one of these things and you start to have a lot of fun with it, right? And you go, oh, I wonder if the seahorse conducts electricity, or conducts current, which it will not do. So anyway, that is how I test for real shungite or fake. If I can get the current to go all the way through to zero, all that means all of the valence electrons are lining up and it is pure. And by the way, I can go all throughout different parts of it. It's not going to matter, because still what's going to happen is all of the different fullerenes have to line up. All of the valence electrons have to line up and give you zero. All the way throughout this entire thing is resonating with current going from the positive pole to the negative pole. How cool is that? Right, and again, just gonna close the circuit up and watch it go to zero. So again, What I'm doing here is one is closed, this is resistance. What I'm doing was when I put anything between these two, I'm going to measure how much signal goes from the top to the bottom, or how much of it gets choked by something inside the material that's not allowing it to pass through. Okay. Shungite.